He's an alien. I think, is that the point of this movie? I don't actually know. Is he an alien?
It depends who
Like
he refers to.
Right.
Although, hey, don't get it twisted. There are no female characters in this film, period. But what bedicked person do you refer to? Jonesy?
Duddits.
Duddits. I am Duddits.
I Duddits.
Oh, yeah,
Duddits
I fucked it up already. I Duddits.
An alien in the movie, but not in the book, is what I'm understanding.
Oh, I didn't know that about the book.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of that old research, and that's a change they made for the movie.
The one thing I learned. No, I'm sure more will come out. All right. I guess since you did the random improv bullshit opening, I'll be the one who wrangles us back on track.
Oh, I'm bad at that.
And that's how we fabricate the idea that we're endearingly sloppy and transparently casual when in fact everything is rigidly planned.
Show the kids.
Don't tell them that. We're talking... Oh, wait. No, I did fuck it up. This is Kings of King. I'm one of your kings, Michael Swaim.
I'm the other king, Abe Epperson.
2 kings now stand before you. That's what I said now. And today we're talking about Dreamcatcher, 2003's Dreamcatcher, not to be confused with the 2019 movie Dreamcatcher with a K, which I didn't investigate further. But very interesting turn for this podcast, because if you followed us in our last podcast, the Coen brothers, or even all the way back to the book club I did with Schmitty, you know that or Abe's current series, Small Beautiful Things, our penchant is to cover singular art pieces or the entire canons of things that we think are really good. Mm-hmm. And when we came up with the idea for this show, one thing that appealed to us is we're like, some Stephen King movies suck really hard. That'll be weird, because Gamefully Unemployed, our sister network, I would say they have found a way to appreciate and tackle, especially Dave Bell can appreciate the shit out of a movie for being bad. I'm not good at that. Are you good at that, Abe? Do you like bad things and find them amusing?
Not really.
Bingo,
no.
Bango. Sugar in the gas tank.
I mean, there's a certain something about really bad movies that like direct my cardinal north, and say, see, this is why good films matter. That's as helpful as they get.
Yeah.
To me.
So I guess I wanted to ask before we even get into format, that was my question, is like watching this, doing this, a movie that is widely considered bad, because it falls within the purview of Stephen King, who we're covering, who we think is good as an average, like, of his work. Mm-hmm. Did you find it fruitful, or is this a bad episode? Is this going to be a waste of everyone's time?
I think it's a waste of everyone's time, to be honest with you. I do think that there's some interesting things that happened in this movie in terms of, like, I can't wait to talk about Skeleton Crew, so we should probably mosey on.
We can get into format, but I love
Under the Dome.
We can mosey to the dome. So I'll just say I love your honesty and your candor, sir. I love that we are honest with our fans as much as we can possibly bring ourselves to be. And I kind of think it might be a skippable episode. We'll see. So if you're a hardcore bean, listen and tell us, is this a waste of time? Because the King canon is so vast, we could easily stick to good movies. Yeah. The question is whether we shall, or whether this show will become all inclusive.
I don't know. Maybe it'll be fun dunking on this movie. We'll see. I mean, I feel like everyone's dunked on this movie, so it's not like it's like it's easy.
It's easy. Let's do the easy thing and get trapped under a 50-meter, 500-meter dome by aliens, I think, also in that. I'm not sure. Maybe the government.
We'll have to cover that one.
Well, when we watch the Under the Dome series, but we're not doing that yet. We're talking Dreamcatcher, Under the Dome.
Our best guess puts the dome at 20,000 feet, sir.
Did he just call it a dome?
You think we might be stuck in here a while?
Is the segment where we give basically a quick rundown of the film if you haven't seen it, which is most of you, or if you saw it and it was bad so you didn't revisit it like us, this will let you know what happened so you remember. So I think you took the last one, right?
Yeah, I did write a log line because I
Oh.
felt it interesting, because one of my biggest critiques of this movie is how convoluted everything
The
is.
premise itself.
So
yeah.
I took it upon myself to go, what's a sentence that actually says the thing if I were to be like, hey, do coverage on this
Yeah. All right, hit
screenplay.
us with that, and I will flesh out the details after.
4 lifelong friends use their psychic talents to destroy an alien race determined to infect the human population.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's like the minimum number of words I think you could do it in, and it makes it seem less convoluted than it is. It's a little more than that. So the elevator pitch version of that, so one scoped level more complex would just be
Yeah.
there's 4 friends. They have real names, but they go by Petey, Henry, Beaver, and Jonesy. Oh, Jonesy, who is Jonesy's gonna get us through this episode.
Oh, hell
Jonesy's a wonder, and a great actor, honestly, but in a weird role. So, yeah, they're 4 friends. They are just good guys, you guys. Like, that's the main thing about these 4 friends is as a unit, they are heroes. They're the version of yourself you wish you were in a crisis. So they're constantly just helping anyone that they see because they gain courage from their friendship, you guys. So they, when they were kids, another Stephen King, very common Stephen King trope, we flash back to when they were kids in Derry, Maine, and we also flash to the present. Well, in the past, when they were kids, they had a formative experience involving the supernatural. It sounds a lot like It, and it kind of is. They saved a kid, a differently abled kid, mentally abled kid, who I guess we would say appears to have Down syndrome or potentially autism. I don't know. He's not as shy as you. Anyway, I'm not here to diagnose things beyond my pay grade, but he's getting picked on by classic high school jock bullies. They stop him even though I think someone says, like, the bully says, but you'll lose the fight. Why would you do this? And they go like, cause we're good. Cause it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to
You're
do.
like, we get it. They're good guys. So
It's wrong that what you're doing, and you need to be stopped.
This
Yeah.
kid Douglas, who goes by Duddits, because that's how he says his own name, turns out to be quietly wise and almost supernaturally knows everything. As they grow up, they have experiences where it becomes clear that he's psychic. He gifts them with psychic powers. He gifts just one of them with the ability to find any item they wish to find. I don't know
as
why.
said by Timothy Oliphant, who plays Pete. He calls him perfect.
He says, yeah,
The
Duddits
most
is
perfect
the most-
person he's ever known.
Here I am. Why am I talking shit on the most perfect person I ever met? Questioning what galaxy he's even. I gotta pee is the line. But anyway, they go to a cabin every year. This is the 20th year. Recently, Jonesy, who is a professor, had a vision of Duddits beckoning him into traffic and walked into traffic and was nearly killed. He had a near-death experience where Duddits told him, it is convoluted, dude. It's hard to condense the elevator version. Told him, watch out for Ishtar Gay. And later that turns out to be him telling them, watch out for Mr. Gray. Mr. Gray is his name for what I interpreted as a hive mind alien invasion, but I could be wrong about that. It could be that one particular one that invades Jonesy is especially dangerous. That just seems so dumb to me. I assume Mr. Gray refers to the entire collective. But anyway, aliens, okay, all right, so there's all that, right? But also separately, aliens routinely try to invade the Earth, and like Men in Black, there's secret government agents who fight that, and they're called the Blue Boys for some reason, and they're led by Morgan Freeman. And unlike, they're more like X-Files than Men in Black, because they're not charming and they aren't flashing and memories away. They just shoot aliens with guns and kill people who get infected by the aliens, because the aliens, who are dicks, they're just evil, but apparently not so powerful that they can just wipe us out instantly. It's a struggle. They continuously stage invasions where they try to spread this red shit called Ripley in honor of aliens.
They are the Ripley. The organism is the Ripley.
Yes, but the
also
organism
known as Byram.
Oh, okay. And this, you did more research, so it's not the movie doesn't necessarily make this all crystal clear. But
Or the group of four call them shit weasels.
right. So the aliens appear to exist in multiple forms. There's these walking Which is why I think the Alien connection is there, because Alien was the first film that famously did like the 4-stage life cycle, and you see it all. And this rips that off. There's the Ripley, which is the red stuff. You get infected with it. It grows inside you. You end up fatally shitting out a thing that becomes colloquially known as a shit weasel, which is like a lamprey-like evil snake. It will fuck you up in its own right, but its mission in life is to lay a clutch of eggs, which it does incredibly quickly. The eggs hatch incredibly quickly and have little shit weasels inside them, and they spawn in that way. And also, if the snake lives long enough, it appears to grow legs and grow to man size and become a bipedal, ugly snake alien. And they have psychic powers. It's so complicated. So we view them as alien greys who are friendly looking, like the classic X-Files alien grey. But inside, they're evil looking lamprey aliens. Go ahead.
And that's not all. And if they are threatened to death, they can explode into
their red mist state.
Which is we're unsure of really. One thing I bring up is that we're unsure of really what it looks like, because like you said, they're telepathic, so they are affecting people's thoughts and visuals. They can present themselves as anything, but they're big worms and they can explode. And if they explode, they can destroy, like a bomb, destroy whole, I don't know if it's like acidic or something, but we saw that they can explode in red mist an entire series of helicopters.
Right.
But if you have telepathic powers, from what I understand, they can explode into mist and just possess you.
Well, they can. So I have a different interpretation, which is that they can explode into mist and possess you, which is usually fatal. It blots out your consciousness and you become a zombie. You are them forever. It's irreversible. The reason Jonesy is able to cohabitate in his mind with the alien and eventually drive it out is because he had a near-death experience. And that retcons why Duddits, who loves them and tries to protect them, would have summoned him into traffic. Because Tim Oliphant says, he saw it all coming. Maybe that's why. Last week, my friend walked into traffic, but... And so that was the moment where I was like, oh, okay. So the near-death experience, which again is an arbitrary, complicated rule. If you've had a near-death experience in your life, it inures you against being fatally possessed. You can still be possessed, but you get to fight in your brain like Gollum and Smeagol with the thing. So, Jesus,
it also inhabits you.
Yeah.
It inhabits you in a way that it can transform. Either it's putting on the image of you. I want to know where Jonesy goes, because at one point he actually kills Pete by eating him. He turns around and then Mr. Gray.
You're saying, that's right. While the alien is possessing him, the alien in Jonesy's body morphs into the worm alien and opens his torso, which is fangs, and eats a human. What is Jonesy's perceptual experience of that happening?
It also happens at the end. The mist comes out. I think it's like the mist is like a sentient cloud kind of thing.
I think it's like the little itchies in the Itchy and Scratchy, where he goes in his bloodstream and chops them
It goes into your blood, but it also can exit from your blood, maybe through your
if
ass
it gets weakened or
chooses your mouth or whatever. Yeah, so apparently that's a thing.
All right, so to wrap it all up, they're in this snowy cabin they always go to, and it turns out Duddits is another alien species that apparently tries to vanguard, like Fifth Element style. They have some kind of, it's not extrapolated on at all, but I must assume.
No, that's good.
They have a duty, or they feel some obligation to defend planets that these assholes are taking out. They are the good guys of the universe, right? They're like our heroes, but of the universe, which I did think was cool. I made that connection where it's oh, when you ask the question that's obvious, why would Duddits give a shit? Why would Duddits protect them? Why did they protect him? It's that they're good guys. There's such a thing as a good entity, that's altruistic. Anyway, Duddits knew this was going to happen and knew that this would be a key moment where Mr. Gray, one of the aliens, would have a rare opportunity, which this is my big plot hole problem with the movie. How have they not already achieved this? This is easy to do. How could they not have already done this? Anyway, all the aliens have to do is get one tiny sperm worm into a water supply of any city on Earth, and it will infest the whole planet, and they'll own Earth. But somehow they've never achieved that, even though they've tried for years. But this time they were going to achieve it. And Duddits foresaw that. And Duddits enlisted these 4 guys and gave them psychic powers and knew that the situation would be such that they'd be able to stop it. The situation is such that they're able to stop it. And basically, I can get there quickly now that you know the rules of the universe. They go hunting. They stumble upon someone who's infected. The military sweeps in and quarantines the town. The alien infests Jonesy. 2 of the friends get killed by aliens. 2 of the other friends get locked in a duel with the alien that's acting as Jonesy. The one guy, the guy who's not possessed, convinces the military underling to rebel against Morgan Freeman, who's like an Ahab character who's obsessed
Henry
with...
convinces Tom Sizemore. Yeah.
He convinces Tom Sizemore, hey, Morgan Freeman is being too bloodthirsty because he's just going to wipe the quarantine area off the map. We can actually stop this and save the innocent infected people if we do XYZ. XYZ is going to fight the alien and getting Duddits and going there. So they get Duddits, they go there. Duddits changes shape into another beefy alien with a scorpion tail, fights the worm that has a scorpion tail, and like everything works out all right. And literally the end of the movie is just Jonesy becomes not possessed, and his friend Tom Jane, nay Henry, says, Jonesy? Meaning, oh, it is him. He's not possessed anymore. Credits. Like the end of the arc is the alien is dead. We're done here. Let's go
He
home.
steps on the little bugs, which proves that he's no longer
Jonesy,
infected.
and at
by
the same time
Mr. Grant.
foils the alien invasion.
Yeah. Well done. I have nothing to add. That is Under the
Great.
Dome. Let's move on to Skeleton Crew, because I do want to talk about this. Skeleton Crew.
Something in the mist! Shut the doors! Shut the door!
Is about the creative team assembled behind the production. And this is usually where we throw out behind the scenes trivia if we know any and just talk about the team. Would it surprise you if I named a bunch of films that the people who worked on this film either wrote or shot?
Well,
the
it
following
wouldn't
films?
surprise me, but it will surprise the listener, I hope. So please
I'll just
go
throw out
ahead.
a few. Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Princess Bride, Mad Max Fury Road, The English Patient.
Yep. So this was written by William Goldman and Lawrence Kasdan and directed by Lawrence Kasdan. And that's why we picked it as our first bad movie, because it's inherently interesting that this crew made such a bad movie. Yeah, go ahead. But yes, it's like if you teamed up, you know, Wayne Gretzky
It's like A-Team
and
on-
Michael
it's like an
Jordan,
A-Team.
and they
Like-
sucked though. Like they fucked up. Yeah.
They
You'd be like, "Ow."
Goldman had adapted 2 other Stephen King novels before this. He did Misery, which was our last episode.
Our last
which
episode, yeah.
critically acclaimed. Hearts in Atlantis, less so in 2001 with Anthony Hopkins. So there's just like a lot of cachet going on, with William Goldman in general. But like in terms of Stephen King novel, they were excited about another one that he's doing, especially if we have at the reins one of like the franchise creators, one of the people that we usually, when we talk about Star Wars, talk about the person who like saved it from being like a catastrophe, because he basically took the reins of power away from George Lucas's writing. Now,
And
this
Tom
is a
Jane
big-
from The Mist.
Yeah, and it's also shot by John Seale, who shot Mad Max Fury Road and The English Patient, amongst others. A very well-known DP. I think he did a good job as well. All these people killing what they're doing. I wouldn't say the script is
and
bad. The script is not bad.
The creature designer is notable for having the best name of anyone in the cast.
Right.
Crash McCreary. Good name. Good name.
Good
and
name.
I would actually argue the creatures are fairly well designed. That's what's
got like a
interesting about.
Geiger-esque-
That's what's interesting about the Skeleton Crew component of this. No one is doing an obviously bad job, but the movie is bad. I still feel
It's-
that the movie is bad.
It is bad, and I feel like I've cracked it, but
I have a theory, but this isn't the section for it.
it isn't the section for it. I do want to say that Lawrence Kasdan is a big name. Everyone knows. In terms of his direction, I wouldn't say that he's top tier director, but he isn't bad. He did Body Heat, Silverado, Wyatt Earp.
But
Mumford.
he's a legendary screenwriter.
But he's a legendary
specifically.
screenwriter. He blasted on scene with The Bodyguard, and then Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Sorry.
Like like he knows what makes a story work. William
Definitely.
Goldman knows what makes a story work. He knows these guys know how to engage an audience.
He not just did because this was 2003, but he did Misery not that long ago. And as we talked about, it's a masterclass in the basics of storytelling and not fucking them up. Mm-hmm. And this movie indeed doesn't really fuck up structurally. It's interesting. Okay, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
I am. That's the one. See, because what I find is with a good movie, so many points resonate with real life, and you actually feel that there's vital truth there to be shared with other humans, and they could benefit. So the episode goes long. I just have one thing about this, which is my theory of why it failed. And I suspect every time we cover a bad movie, the only interesting part will be, well, why did it fail?
Why is it a failure? Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about how it failed. It's box office gross of $33 million in just the North American domestic market. It only earned half of its estimated $70 million production budget, therefore. It did surpass it eventually worldwide, but it's considered basically a flop because it basically made its money back worldwide. Kasdan has since argued that this particular movie affected his career in a pretty devastating way. He is now passed on multiple considerations for directorial jobs since, and he says, like, I was in a place where that was never happening, even if I like didn't have great career success, like, or I didn't have a great success, like it wasn't a huge hit. My movies always were like, yeah, like you get this much money. Producers were very weary on giving him more directorial jobs after this because they just put it at his feet, which is that's the job of the director. So whose feet are you going to put it upon? I have a slightly different theory. I don't know when we'll talk about that, but what's also interesting is Morgan Freeman got top billing for this. Obviously, he's a huge name. He does not appear until 40 minutes into the movie.
Nor would anyone call him the main character in any stretch. So,
No. Yeah. Damian, let's talk about the cast a little bit. What a cast!
That's what I was going to say, is because it's weird. I understand Morgan Freeman is the most famous name, but it's not like the cast is not stacked otherwise. At the time, Tom Sizemore mattered. And Tom Jane, I think, still is like B-level star. And then, who's Jonesy?
Jonesy is Damian Lewis, who like kind of took us all by surprise with Band of Brothers and has since been in things like Homeland and a bunch of supporting roles and features. He's just become a guy who's kind of like we all recognize now. He's not A-list either, but he's almost as big these days as Tom Jane was probably at the time of making
and
this
Jason
movie.
Lee rounds out our four friends.
Yeah, Timothy Olyphant actually also.
Oh, did I not mention Timothy? Sorry.
Our Seth Bullock, so our favorite. And here's one of the things that I noticed about this is because I had a crisis of faith a little bit recently about my what am I just not good at determining if if actors are good or not, because I thought for the longest time that there's something wooden in Timothy Olyphant's performances. And then I thought that in Deadwood, he was so good because basically Milch used him to such a great effect.
Right.
They used his woodenness in a perfect role. So I was like, that's just great casting. It doesn't necessarily mean he's a good actor. Then since I've seen a lot of roles that he's played that I'm like, you know what? I'm wrong about this. Timothy Olyphant is really good. I have to say that in this movie, him acting drunk it's really bad in my opinion.
Okay. I thought I was going to be crazy. I thought you were about to say, I have to say it's good. No, I had the same thing. It was like,
so bad.
He sucks in this movie. is weirdly bad. It's like someone told him to act drunk and he doesn't know how to act drunk and he overacts drunk and it sucks. It's bad.
Yeah, so I don't know what to do. He's like Steven Summers to me. I don't know what to do. You know, like you fucking kill it one instance, and then another instance, I don't know what the hell you're doing. I'm just not seeing something. So because he's obviously good, he obviously can emote and do.
There's such a thing as someone who's hit and miss, or hit and miss, who have good days and bad days. Yeah,
not great for old Timothy.
I think he's really good in
which means very little.
The Office. I think he's quite good, actually.
Oh yeah, he's had many roles that he's been awesome in. He's almost saved Die Hard, which is like impossible. Right.
That's true. Is that it for Skeleton Crew?
Yeah, there's just well, yeah, there's the DVD contains the original ending. That's something I wanted to point out to people if they're confused and they've seen a version.
Oh, sure. What is the original ending?
Duddits defeats the alien using his special power, but is not revealed to be an alien. He then dies because he's like exhausted and obviously the leukemia. And so the last shot, rather than stepping on the worm, is Jonesy and Henry visit his grave and sing Blue Bayou.
Gotcha. So it would literally just
calm him down earlier. Yeah.
Same tone, but leaving him mysterious whether he truly is an alien or you could interpret it some other way.
More true to the novel. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, this was like, his head morphs into an Egyptian like spider head and he has a scorpion tail.
He looks like
he's an alien, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very bizarre, but hey, like it's a Stephen King thing. Pennywise, all that. Speaking of, we should segue to the next section.
Did, my friend.
It's called It.
Bill, if you'll come with me, you'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
Now this is where we get to finally say all the things we keep saying. That's not for this segment, though. Let's withhold that arbitrarily from the audience, though. This is when you get your big, meaty brain payoffs.
Yeah, we're small beans.
This is the money segment.
Yeah. I love a few things that so here's my big I have two big things. One is I want to talk to you whatever you want to talk about first, but I want to talk about why I think this movie fails.
That's what I was going to ask.
And then there's another thing I want to talk about, which is how does one determine like when the writer is writing all the stuff like the symbology aspects and all of like I'm including all of these things like SSDD or the number 19 or the idea of Dreamcatcher. I have all the symbology. Why does that not affect someone? Like like formalists like us get real hard on it, and we really love that shit, but we're also not crazy. We understand that like not everyone enjoys that kind of stuff. But this movie I feel has plenty of symbology. It just doesn't work on it. I want to investigate that.
Yeah, it took me watching it a second time to realize they did try. Mm-hmm. So for example, there are a few moments, look, you can't be this team and not win some. And I think I was harsh on it. The first time you watch a movie, it's your overall gut reaction gets applied to the whole movie. So I remember it being mediocre every moment. And that's not true. There are standout moments that are good. One for me is the shot of the titular Dreamcatcher burning from one side and spreading with infection from the other side as a guy uses fire to fight the infection, but at the risk of his protection from the nightmares. So you're like, oh, the shot's literalizing. We're like almost getting a recap of what's going on. Yeah. A postcard for almost a check-in on the status of the story. That's really neat. And then a human directorial moment that I think I've never seen in a movie, and it's great directing, is they have a violent car crash and he goes, I think my leg's broken. Oh, fuck. And he drags him out. And then they laugh for a while there's no reason to laugh, but you have to imagine it's the endorphin rush of realizing you're both alive though. Oh, we're going to walk away from this. Ha 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 ha. Ho, fuck, God. Man. Fuck.
I'm thinking about so many things.
And I'm like, that was so realistic and shows never do that. directing exists in the film and there's good moments. So the question is, why didn't I think it's a matter of, there's an effect I learned about called the in good hands theory, which is, and it comes to similar storytelling questions like, how can a reader or whoever, whatever, a viewer, whatever, how do we program their brain in such a way that they can tell that an unreliable narrator who says things that aren't true is not the effect of the writer not keeping track of things, the difference between a plot hole and an unreliable narrator, right? And we have this problem, especially nowadays in the internet age. And this one, there's no real way around. It's tough. Satire, if there's not a lampshade on it, is indistinguishable from someone who just really thinks that dumb, crazy thing.
Right.
So that functions at every level of storytelling, not just satire. So my theory is that because the execution is weak, you don't feel you're in good hands, and you have an image of the force that's telling you the story in your mind whenever you experience a story. And it's not necessarily the author, it's like the god of that universe. And in my mind, when I'm watching Dreamcatcher, the god of this universe is not smart enough to have included symbology, so I don't even bother to look for it. What is your theory, sir?
I align with a lot of what you say, and I do want to add, I think it comes down to who to blame and why it fails.
Yeah.
It's not just directorial. It's not in good hands in that regard, because I do think Kasdan he doesn't do missteps. He doesn't, in terms of directorial work, he doesn't choose bad shots. He didn't cast poorly. He doesn't know how to fail a sequence. He keeps screen direction and geography clear.
Yeah.
Everything, all of the director's craft is intact.
If you stopped and freeze framed, I don't think there's any shots that you'd go, that's one for the ages, but that you'd all go like, that's a good shot.
True.
Yeah. That's a good
true.
shot.
Yeah.
Sure.
And sometimes sometimes as a culture, what's great is often is distilled through one or two moments in a movie.
Yeah.
That were without objection, great. But then we distill the entire movie to the greatness of those moments.
Oh yeah, the psycho shower scene, Shelley Duvall screaming.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, that's that movie.
That's that movie. And then likewise, if you never truly do something that really resonates and makes memorable in the hearts and minds of people, you're seen as mediocre.
It's funny, yeah. This movie is sequence after sequence of competent, fine sequences, but no one sequence is brilliant. And I left thinking the movie was terrible. Now, do you track that? I saw sequence after sequence of things that are fine, and I left thinking it was terrible, because you need one. There has to be some crystallizing, transcendental, or what is sticking in my mind about this story. It seems you've lost the urgency of why tell this story. It reminds me of another one we could cover, because I think it's based on a Stephen King. The one about the window with Johnny Depp, and he keeps writing "shoot her" on his wall. Oh,
is that Secret
Window?
Bullshit?
Secret Window. Same
Secret
thing.
Window, yeah.
I'm like, everything is fine, but why put money together and assemble people and make this? Why did it happen?
Why do to make more money? There's something in addition to that, I think, because there's that. I'm not saying what you're saying is specious. I actually think you're nailing it. But I think if you ask everybody who's seen Dreamcatcher, I think you get very few defenders of this movie for this movie. But I would say that in our collective head space, we all remember things from this movie. It is a memorable movie.
Well,
the sequence with Beaver in the bathroom sitting on the toilet.
But what you remember,
waving aliens as all these things are memorable. Yes.
Yes, but the thing I remembered from Beaver sitting in the toilet, and it bugged me just as much this time, is that he needs to reach for a toothpick for no reason to arbitrarily raise stakes. And the stakes are already.
I thought it was because it calms him down.
I understand that, but in real life. You know what I mean? I think throughout.
Sure.
So I disagree that they didn't fuck up. I think there are things that are dropping the ball to a degree that is humorous about not understanding how humans work, mainly in that arena. One is this scene. It's the fact that I don't care how much your blankie calms you or your widget or your doodad, whatever you need.
Yeah.
You're not going to risk an alien shooting up your butt because you need it right now when your friend is literally going to get something that will solve the situation. And that thing, by the way, is called duct tape, not friction tape. That is a writing mistake. Like, that's weird. No one in the world ever calls it friction tape. I actually count that as a dropping the ball on like a diction level. But then furthermore in that scene, the stakes you've set up are you got to go quick, but Jonesy's leg is stiff. But you got to go quick. That's the nut. Oh, that's why this is such a hard situation. And then he goes, well, maybe I should go. No, you should go. No, maybe I should go. You should go. Okay, I'm going. And this is a directorial fumble. He exits the slowest I've ever seen anyone exit a scene. And then he returns to say, oh, and hey, Beaver, sit tight, buddy, which undermines the fact that a second ago he thought this was very urgent. It's like, I've never seen comedy and horror not meld so much. It's because comedy and horror usually work, but this was the horror moment where you were supposed to keep the stakes real. And he goes, hey, sit tight, buddy. And you're like, I thought you were in a hurry. And then it immediately goes, oh, he was in a hurry because if he grabs this toothpick, he's getting an alien up the butt. And you're like, so the stakes are real. Now they're fake. Now they're real. Yep. And I think it's fumbles like that actually disintegrate your feeling of that the movie is on track.
You're right about this. An analogy I think of, or something that I think it would please my college film professor, would be that, like, you got to look at how structurally sound this sequence that you're pointing to right now and how it fails, and you nailed it, because you got to think of, like, if you're building a house, you got to nail the nail into the right part of the beam so that the fucking wall stays up. And when you start just hammering nails into whatever and say, it's comedy, it's horror, it's like all these things. So are we moving fast? Are we moving slow? Well, let's build a little tension and then move fast. And it's like, so what master are you?
In what cadence, like, and in what pattern? And that pattern creates what rhythm?
Who's driving?
Yeah.
Who's driving? And that's the failure.
It's like, who is it? J.J. Abrams says, I like that sequence. It rhymes. I hate J.J. Abrams, but that quote is true and insightful about storytelling. Like, the emotions you're feeding into my brain should occur in some sort of thought out cadence that has a rhythm to it. That's like, sad, happy, happy, sad, sad, happy, happy, sad, big sad, end of movie. There are right. This is a thing. This is a force that lets you know the movie was thought through. And it does feel so. My big theory is that it's simply overwritten. It's like when you stack so many heavy hitters on a team that they get in each other's way. Oh, is that your theory too?
Yeah, that's it. And I put that on the feet of Steven, dude. I do.
How so?
It's too much. I think that this needs to be a TV show. It can never be a movie in that way, because it's not that you can't do it. I'm not disagreeing with Kubrick when he says if you can think it, you can film it. I'm saying it's disassociating you from the audience's need to watch movies, and the need to watch a movie comes from the idea of relating to characters and understanding where they're coming from. It's taking big swings and doing, like you said, laughing at a car crash, doing a lot of cool little moments, but I never get into the head, even though they show me literally doing so, I never get to get in the head of any of these characters, and because there's so much exposition and nuance of that exposition that has to happen. We have to introduce too many things, and that means that in the time allotted. And this movie is 2 hours long.
2:20. It's like 2:17.
And if you go to IMDb right now or Rotten Tomatoes and look at the user, like all of the reviews by like just people, almost all of them say the same thing, which is, why was this 2 hours long? I'd like it if it was 90 minutes long, which is hilarious to me, because that's actually just like, that's Band-Aid on a bullet wound. That's like saying, I wish it were that, and that's the effect of what I have a problem with. But the result is only caused by the trend that preceded it. And the trend here is that it's all too much. It's too many things happening. We got flashbacks. We got fucking different types of aliens.
It is interesting on how many levels it's too much, because on one level, it's too many King tropes in one King bottle. It's trying
King.
to be it and Misery and The Shining. It has so many
and Stand By
things
Me.
that are yes, absolutely. It has
and Under the Dome.
It has so many things that are structurally similar to things he will do later or has done already, that it's like now that's what I call Stephen King 18 compilation of fucking. They even have Duddits say, here's Josie when they save that girl. And you're like, Jesus Christ, are you just trying to shimmy in a Shining reference right now? My God.
It's like a greatest hits album, as if we're supposed to think that that's how films work.
And it's also like what
that.
you said about the nailing random parts to your house and just hoping it comes out as like a really sick house because there's so many parts. I
sick.
Felt that way very much about, well, first of all, just the aliens and magic systems that were going to literalize the interior of his head. And then I made this list I want to go through if you don't mind. The tip off for me was, look, every writer, and Stephen King loves this, and if you know anything about William Goldman's writing, William Goldman loves this, and the Coen brothers love this, and I love this. People have certain turns of phrase. Look, a million movies have someone say the line, kill them all. But the one movie where the exact same stakes are in play and the exact same scenarios playing out, but the guy says, okay, to take Firefly Serenity for an example, well, I don't kill children. I do. It's so much more impactful, literally just because it's fresh. It's the same scene, it's just fresh. And so a good writer will try and be fresh.
It's Subway,
you
baby.
You gotta be fresh. And but I think they overdid it. So Stephen King loves quirky turns of phrase that kids use. And William Goldman loves unique language. And when you put that together, you have a movie that has all of these things in it, and it becomes fucking obnoxious. Crime and Netley's. Jesus, fuck bananas. Same shit, different day. Fuck me, Freddy. Kiss my Bender. Bite my bag. It was a fuckery, not a fuckero. You're a real Jabba Nabba. Bucko, laddie, blue boy, capiche? Scooby Dooby Doo, we've got some work to do now. Fast and hard, clean and smiling. Pick a fucking catchphrase, movie.
Yeah,
Jesus
dude.
Christ.
Hell yeah. I'm loving this energy so much right now, dude. You're my hero. Hell yeah. That's exactly it, man. It's exactly it.
It's just too much.
It's so important that you brought up J.J. Abrams, because I think what we've done is we're pointing at the problem in Hollywood right now, is that, and it's why this failed, and it's why I think a lot of people and things that do succeed, because we only have so much budget to go around, thanks Disney. So new ideas, we still need to go to the Marvels and all this stuff. So I need to take them all to task, because they all do this shit. And J.J. Abrams is the guy who realized that this kind of shit does work. If you dress everything up that it looks like and it feels like something reminiscent of something that you're used to, because you yourself are very educated in film.
That's true.
You as a viewer are in the middle of a journey.
I didn't realize how
going to happen.
this
as long
is
as
very
film
proto
happens.
Abrams in a way I didn't even realize.
It so is, because it's all about identifying the result. It's not about identifying the motivation. And they have like they basically, when they take you to directing school, they put you in a room and they say, don't result-based direct. Just don't do it. It's an insult to everyone around you, and it also just destroys.
It means you have nothing to say.
Communication.
So what are you doing here?
So it's hilarious to me when I always see Abrams,
and they're like,
behind
I'll
the
tell you
scenes
what I'm
footage
doing
of
here,
like
making
Abrams
$1 billion.
or
Yeah.
Lucas, all these directors, we see what they're telling their actors, and it's stuff like this: faster, more intense.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want to be. That's what you want it to be. It means do the thing in my head. It doesn't mean let's talk about what is happening. And that is the failure of most of these people who are given just so much money.
Right.
And I think that with this story, it's a little bit more unique because I don't think that Kasdan is going around yelling faster, more intense like a J.J. Abrams.
No, he probably did it right. Yeah.
He probably did it right. It's just that they wanted so badly for everyone to be on board with it that they mimicked the form of having succeeded without really having done the work. And that is at their feet. But that's really, it's because the story they tried to tackle has so much going on that it's like, where do you have the time to do that stuff? So I don't blame him too much for it. I don't blame even King, even though I said it's kind of him to blame. I don't really blame him because it's just like, it's a story that just really shouldn't be covered in a 2-hour movie.
That's true. Yeah. Another thing I noticed, though, as someone who writes a lot of sci-fi horror short stories, when I look back at them 10 years later, I do realize that I reuse my own ideas in different combinations. So I don't even necessarily lay it on, I don't even theorize that King is like, I will now callously cash in on a greatest hits of my tropes I've used before. He doesn't need to do that. He has a very fertile imagination and money. He's done like, I imagine it felt fresh when he thought of the idea, and in retrospect, he'd probably agree, oh, that was kind of similar to it. Well, you know, I was exploring a similar direction, but with different details. And that's allowed. But this one I just don't see it having a lot of freshness or a lot to say. And I think like a great concrete example is I kept forever trying to figure out, because they call it Ripley, and they shout out Alien, and Tom Sizemore's in it. And Alien, famously, if you do any close reading or film studies, the big thing about Alien that is like the did you know is like, well, did you know that it's really a rape story? It's the idea of they were thinking what's scary. And one thing that's scary is the sheer violation of being raped. And that's true. But they didn't want to make irreversible. They didn't want to just shoot a rape. So they were like,
what's an analogy?
It's an analogy. Our alien will shoot a dick into you so forcefully that it plants a seed in you, or if the facehugger gets you, it makes you gag and shove something down you, and later a baby that you didn't want bursts out of you and kills you in childbirth. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare twisted version of a rape cycle.
And and then to put it in the framework of a horror film, which obviously makes sense because rape's about power, and there's nothing more powerful than a little
unknown monster
that's
7
can
feet
be
tall.
anywhere in the ship at any time, pop out of anywhere, and has complete control over your physical well-being.
Right.
So like it's absolutely
by contrast, they created the alien life cycle, right? So they're mirroring a similar execution that they find good. They see that Alien is good. And I would argue that whoever composed the score was like X-Files is good, because this whole score is just X-Files music. But then they didn't think about what it means. And I tried to wrap my head around it, and I'm pretty sure there's nothing there, which is, well, what's different? This alien, it is a cloud you inhale, and then it shoots out your butt so forcefully that it rips all your organs out and you die that way. So what is that analogous to? The horror of, you know how everyone's scared one day they'll shit themselves so hard they die? No one's scared of that. I don't understand what you were trying to play upon, even from a psychology or like human behavior standpoint. You just flipped some details around so it didn't look like an Alien ripoff. That's not enough.
Yeah, and this misappropriated art of symbology or reference, rather, is probably a better word. If people hadn't already catched it, I think it's pretty obvious, though, but just so it's the same kind of thing we're talking about, I think, here. Same shit, different day. You know, like
Doesn't
Morgan Freeman says that in Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, yeah. And I couldn't figure out, it doesn't mean anything.
The number 19 is everywhere in this film, and I was looking for why, because it's like the jersey is 19. He lives at like 19.
Yeah.
One of the houses' address is
Right.
19. It's because 19 is a very like a fundamentally important number in the Dark Tower series. I don't know why, because I haven't read them, but you can see how transparent, like the numerology there is so transparently like, okay,
There's
whatever.
too much that makes you
it's-
shrug and go, okay, that's fine.
And
yeah.
and so we have to look at what this film has on its own, and what it's actually proposing is the themes and the theories. I see things like kindness and empathy as salvation. You know, I see things like Dreamcatcher, or like the idea of blocking dreams from children that would harm them and being essentially a guardian. I see that that's a continuation with Duddits, or for, you know, even in a way, in a weird way, Abe Curtis, who, by the way, they changed the name to Curtis from Kurtz because, again, reference.
His name was going to be
to-
Abe Kurtz, like Captain Ahab
Yeah.
mixed with Kurtz. That's so stupid.
Yep. It's so stupid.
You're like,
That's
"Get it?
but that's
He's
the name I think in the
obsessed."
book. It's and we all know Kurtz from Heart of Darkness and Apocalypse
Right.
Now as a war general who's been in the shit so long that he's lost his mind. What does that reference earn you as a filmmaker?
It's just shorthand for this
storyteller?
guy's that type. Yeah, that's all you get.
But it's like, you guys can do better than this, and we know you can.
We've seen you.
And it's the mere
Princess
fact
Bride
that they
is
changed
one
the
of
name.
the finest screenplays ever written. Yeah.
Right. But the mere fact that they changed his name from Kurtz to Curtis reveals something to me. What it says is it means they know
They
what
knew
they're
that was
doing
too
there.
sweaty.
They're like, let's not do all the
Yeah.
references, guys. That's pushing the brakes on that impetus. Whereas I think J.J. Abrams would be like, more. You know, it's
More
like poetry
flares.
it rhymes, George Lucas. Yeah. Here, they're like, maybe not. And that's what makes me kind of sad about this movie, is that they clearly, for whatever reason, probably production and reality, you know, the woes of production and such, they couldn't make the movie they wanted to, or didn't have the budget, or they didn't have the ability to do it for whatever reason. So they just kind of were happy with second best.
Yeah.
And what that meant is that they had to cut corners and not do the work and just try to replace it with the feeling of them doing the work. And that's why it feels so disassociating, and like people never got on board with it, because it's like, it's got everything. And that's something that, like, that's one of the things we love about like the Indiana Jones. It's got Nazis in it. It's got everything,
Yeah.
you know, like it's got all this shit going on. It's like,
This feels like
we just want to pack
trying
more
to
on the
just-
adventure.
Yeah, it's trying to capture lightning in a bottle artificially.
Yeah. And I think we all see
Can I-
it because there's an art of the
Can
genre.
I read you my description of the scene where they met Duddits? As I wrote notes organically watching the movie.
Yes. I love that.
They came to stare at the homecoming queen's pussy, but they found another better pussy to stare at. Friendship. I Duddits. It's just all my notes are like, Abe/Freeman tells Sizemore, wipe out quarantine. Once in a while, I'll write a full joke, and then it's got to make it into the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I made a note that when the alien bites Tim Oliphant's dick off, so he fucks the fire and tries to burn it, and it bites him in the face. It bites him with the side that bit his dick off, so he's got dick breath on his face. That's bad too. Yeah. That's dude, let's this you guys, if you can't tell, I'm going through final notes before I'm like, I don't have anything else real to say. I did like the stepping on the worms because it reminded me of my favorite Eraserhead scene.
Oh yeah. I didn't make that. I mean,
I don't know
connection?
if it's an
not really a
intentional connection.
No, it's a sound.
John
alike
Wayne's
kind of
gun
thing.
having a tracking chip in it was one of the dumber things I've ever been asked to go
Jesus.
along with
Jesus.
as a plot device.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh,
You want the premise to be viable.
and then of course, I'm sorry, everyone should know the most important note of all, and this is important. This has been an important theme in Abe and my friendship since day one. At an hour and 1 minute and 20 seconds, triangle mouth.
The best face of all time.
Damian Lawrence? Is that
Jonesy.
his name? Damian
Lewis.
Lewis, redheaded guy from Homeland, makes the funniest face that Abe and I agree that we have ever seen in a film. It's his triangle mouth.
It's so good.
It's so good. Check it out.
I'm definitely going to make sure that is the thumbnail for this
Please.
video on YouTube and on Patreon, so you guys know what we're talking about here. It's so great, and it's also Lewis's performance there is like he's off, like he's not
trying
a
to be
person.
crazy.
And then he is suddenly inhabited by an alien deciding this is what humans are. And then it's an immediately switch on. And that's the face he came up with. Surprising note for behind the scenes, when Damian Lewis wanted to think of like, well, what does Mr. Gray sound like? And what is he like?
Right.
What spirit
What is the Pennywise
inhabiting
of this
him?
movie?
And what he did is he just did an impression, and I'd never noticed it until I read this fact. He's totally nailing it. He's doing an impression of Malcolm McDowell.
Oh,
And it's such
he's
a
just
good
Malcolm
impression.
McDowell. That's true. As himself.
It's just Malcolm
yeah,
McDowell,
like in
dude.
interviews. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, and it's also when he plays his little bit more of like characters that are larger than life kind of
Right.
stuff. Like it's got a little bit of Clockwork
hello.
Orange in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hello, Jonesy.
Well, I think I'll kill you all then.
Yeah, exactly.
He does, and he does a good
it's so
job.
good.
I really like that scene. Even
Yeah,
though, again,
most people
as
are
I
doing
watched
a
it,
good
I
job.
was confused. I didn't understand how I was supposed to keep taking the stakes seriously or if I was supposed to. Watching it, if I'm just like, look, the movie's bad, what parts did I like? He is doing a fun performance. It's fun.
He's doing a fun performance, but there's nothing.
It doesn't
that's,
serve a greater
again,
whole, but it's fun.
I think you nailed it. I think we're all on the same page, which is that Stephen King's original novel is almost 700 pages long. That's a cue.
Yeah.
Because he's not gonna, like, Stephen King isn't got one who minces words, you know, like he has intention behind it. The scope of it is very tough. I want us to think about why Dreamcatcher failed, and also make us realize that maybe it's the same reason why Dark Tower failed.
Right.
Maybe it isn't entirely at the
I
feet
refuse
of the
to watch
people
that
behind
movie
it.
because Dark
Yeah.
Tower is one of my favorite book series of all time, and the idea that it could be done, I'm not even willing to entertain the notion. I'm sorry. I'm not going to. I love
Yeah.
Idris Elba, but I don't want to see it done that way. I'll wait for the real
It's-
version.
Right. Exactly, and that's why we're probably going to talk about The Stand and the miniseries.
Hell yeah, I
and
hope
this
so.
will probably come up because I think there's
I've
something
never
to be
seen
said
The Stand.
about.
I really want to watch the show.
There's something to be said about, like, when the writer has the golden word, you got to really assess what, like, in this podcast we started off talking about what Stephen King brings to the table, which is just unique thought and original compositions that are resonant with us. And then he can hand it off to filmmakers, and he's a great collaborator in that respect, that then take that work and turn it into something that through the visual medium is fantastic. And I'm glad we started off with three fairly solid films that I think exhibit that. This is an example, and we'll see many times in this podcast, I think, of when they don't. And I think fundamentally, even if you're the biggest Stephen King fan in the world and you're listening to this podcast, remember that there's a difference between those production scalings, between like writing a novel and just trying to, or just the medium of just speaking through a book versus speaking through a film. There's so much that's harder to translate. There's so many type of stuff that Stephen King is very good at that I don't think we'll ever be satisfied with a visual version of some of it unless it's given the time to do so, unless it's given the budget. That's why, I think Lord of the Rings by Peter Jackson, it had such a beautiful scaffolding to stand upon. Mm-hmm. You couldn't accomplish it. It was like the perfect storm. And some of these tales that Stephen King has they need a perfect storm. And so let's not like say like, fuck these
right. Like you're
people
saying,
or
like
anything like
it's
that.
no small thing to make a good visual version of the Dark Tower. That's a pretty
of the Dark
ambitious
Tower,
fucking
yeah.
ask. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. And a lot of the books that turn into the best movies are because they're streamlined, they're simple. They have a thing that they want to say. They're smaller and
you
humbler.
find that his short stories, right? Like Shawshank actually has room to add stuff that wasn't in the story because the story's so short, and it ends up using those additions to make it more film suited. So you end up with one of the best movies that we'll cover. I'm sure.
That's my theory.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Some will disagree. Do you want to take a stand?
Let's do it. The Stand.
Time to make your stand.
This is where we do a short review of the execution, which we kind of already did.
I consider
right
it hardcore
now,
ranking, honestly, which we rarely do.
This is what we're going to do right now is where it exists in the King Pantheon based on the 4 episodes we've done, including this one. So,
number 4. Yeah.
Number 4.
So our current running tally is The Shining, Misery, The Mist, Dreamcatcher. Awesome.
Kind of no brainer. It's not going to get interesting until there's like at least 10 on this
But then
list,
it will become interesting, and this segment will get really long, and we'll argue more.
More robust because it will be each of us. I can't wait till we just when we disagree. It's just going to keep coming
I actually
back.
think it'll be really interesting to disagree about like, look, I agree with you completely, but your number 7 and 8 should be swapped. Like really detail level. Yeah.
Man, we were at each other's throats when we did this for Coen Brothers, man. We were like, you put that at number 7. You get the fuck out of here.
That was actually mildly upsetting. Like almost really upsetting. Some of those.
So look for that in the future.
Feel free to suggest what you think we should cover next. We won't necessarily listen to you, but do feel free. We do read things on occasion.
There's tons to cover.
Yeah.
And it's usually based off the whim of when we can talk to each other. It's like, what do you want to watch and talk about?
But I'd especially love feedback for this show on whether it's more interesting when we cover good movies or bad movies. And this is only your first data point, so we'll have a better idea once we've done more bad movies. Like it might be interesting this time, but I have a feeling it might get wearisome to cover bad movies. We'll see. We'll see.
Right. Yeah. There are a few bad movies that like Maximum Overload.
That's what I mean is there's a whole swath of people, and I get this because I've known a lot of people like this who are begging us. We get the messages who are like, cover Maximum Overdrive, cover like shit that's so bad that episode's going to be hilarious. And as a professional comedian, I'm saying to you, I don't know that it will be hilarious. Bad stuff is boring sometimes.
I love the honesty and transparency we get from Michael Swan.
Hey, we've come full circle.
Yeah. We've come full circle.
And that's
the
King.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think that's
if you enjoy
episode.
our work, please consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/smallbeans. Or if you can't swing it, give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Just search for Small Beans Audio. It would really help us out.
And all cops are bastards.
Yeah. Hey, Cab.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The Beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you.